Wet your hands with water. Apply soap, rub your hands palm to palm and wash the backs of both hands and in between your fingers. Then palm to palm with fingers interlocked. Clasp your hands together and rub. And then clean around the thumbs too. Rub your fingertips in the palms of your hands and finish off with the wrists. Rinse your hands really well with water and dry them thoroughly with a paper towel. Use the towel to turn off the tap. Your hands are now clean.
Good morning, students. This will raise Azizi again. I hope you're doing well. The weather is quite hot and humid as usual. Let's hope it gets better soon. So today we're going to finish the chapter number 4, A Truly Beautiful Mind, which is about Albert Einstein. If you remember in previous paragraphs in my first video, while Einstein was solving the most difficult problems in physics, his private life was unraveling. He married with Mileva, but got separated. He married again in the same year when he got separated with his cousin, whose name was Elsa. So that was in the previous paragraphs. Now I'm going to read and explain you the further paragraphs, which starts from the page number 49, point number 12. Einstein's new personal chapter coincided with his rise to world fame. In 1915, he had published his general theory of relativity, which provided a new interpretation of gravity. So now another phase is going to start of his life when his theory of relativity was published. So that was 1915. The general theory of relativity was published, and that provided a new interpretation. Interpretation means explanation of gravity. And the word coincident is a past form of coincide. That means occur at the same time. So something happened, like you must have heard this word, or it's a coincident that it happened. So that's the word, if you know. An eclipse of the sun in 1919 brought proof that it was accurate. So the theory which Albert Einstein published about the relativity and obviously provided a new interpretation of gravity that was all about gravity. And so when in 1919 an eclipse of the sun occurred, then it proved that his theory was accurate. Einstein had correctly calculated in advance the extent to which the light from fixed stars would be deflected through the sun's gravitational field. Deflected, changed direction because it hit something. So whatever happened when the eclipse of sun occurred in 1919, he had already written that in his book, in his theory of relativity. The newspapers proclaimed his work as a scientific revolution So obviously he got fame, and all the newspaper lauded about him and lauded about his theory, the publication. Einstein received the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1921. He was showered with honors and invitations from all over the world and lauded by the press. So, for his work, he received Nobel Prize for Physics. That was year 1921, and he started getting honors from all over the world, and also he started getting invitations from the other part of the world, other countries, for the conferences, as blah blah blah, etc. And the press highly wrote about him. When the Nazis came to power in Germany in 1933, Einstein immigrated to the United States. So now you should know that what this word stands for here, Nazis. There was a party of where the leader was of that party was Hitler. I'm sure you know this word, Hitler. Who was Hitler? So in Germany in 1933, Nazis means the party of Hitler came into power. Came into power, obviously by election, whatever they had that time. So that party came into power. So what Einstein did, he immigrated, he moved to United States. 5 years later, the discovery of nuclear fission in Berlin had American physicists in an uproar. Many of them had fled from fascism just as Einstein had, and now they were afraid the Nazis could build and use an atomic bomb. So when the Nazis came into power in Germany, Albert Einstein moved to United States, and just after 5 years, scientists discovered nuclear fission in Berlin. What is nuclear fission? It's a division of cells, of human cells. So after their finding, American physicists were quite upset. Means the physicists living in America, they got upset. Many of them had fled from fascism. What is fascism? Opposed to socialism. Means a person who opposes to socialism. Just as Einstein had. So just like Einstein, many of the physicists, they also fled from fascism. Fled is like you can say run away. And now they were afraid the Nazis could build and use an atomic bomb. So they were worried about that Nazis, the Hitler's army, a Hitler party, they could build atomic bomb and use it. At the urging of a colleague, Einstein wrote a letter to the American President Franklin D. Roosevelt. So one colleague, one fellow worker, asked Albert Einstein to, why don't you write a letter to the President of America to make him aware or to give your points or give your views So he did that. He wrote a letter to the American president, and that time the American president was Franklin D. Roosevelt. That was on 2nd August 1939. So in that letter, he basically warned, he made him aware. So what his warning was? A single bomb of this type exploded in a port might very well destroy the whole port together with some of the surrounding territory. So he made the president aware that how dangerous could be an atomic bomb if the Nazis people build this. So he said that a bomb of this type could just explode in a port, and that would destroy the whole port, and together with some of the surrounding territory, the surrounding area. So his letter did impact on the president. So in words, did not fail to have an effect. The Americans developed the atomic bomb in a secret project of their own and dropped it on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. So I'm sure that being a student, you must be knowing that America had dropped atomic bomb in August 1945 on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So this is what the writer is describing here. So after a letter was sent to the President of America by Albert Einstein, they did build atomic bomb, and they used it where? On the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Einstein was deeply shaken by the extent of the destruction. Einstein didn't want this. So he was deeply shaken by this destruction. This time he wrote a public missive to the United Nations. So last time he had written to the president privately, but this time he wrote publicly. What is missive? Missive is a letter especially long and official. So he wrote the letter to the United Nations. That means he wrote this publicly for the sake of people. In it, he proposed the formation of a world government. Unlike the letter to Roosevelt, this one made no impact. So what happened? So when he wrote the first letter to the president, that obviously did impact, and they built the atomic bomb. They even used it. But this time when he wrote publicly, there was no impact of his letter. Just like, unlikely the letter to Roosevelt. But over the next decade, a span of 10 years. So meaning after 10 years, Einstein got ever more involved in politics, agitating for an end to the arms buildup and using his popularity to campaign for peace and democracy. So what was the letter about? This the second one. It was about to form a world government. A world government means, like kind of a structure of governments where you have understanding that about the war and situation and thing. So no single country can just decide like that to drop a bomb on another country. So that was his thought. Now, after 10 years of that incident, when he wrote the letter, he got involved into politics, and he used his popularity because he was a scientist, great scientist, and obviously people knew him. If you remember that when his theory was published, so he had invitations from all over the world. So he used that popularity to campaign for peace and democracy. And what he wanted to end to the arms buildup. I mean, there shouldn't be, like the factories or governments making arms and ammunitions, because that destroys obviously humanity. When Einstein died in 1955 at the age of 76, he was celebrated as a visionary and world citizen as much as scientific genius. So that time people didn't listen to him. The government didn't listen to him. But everyone realized when he died at the age of 76. And so he was like a visionary person, visionary man, as well as a genius scientist. So why this title has given to him? Now you know, because he was not only the scientist, he also agitated, fought for to end to the arms buildup. Means he didn't want destructions. He didn't want these kind of arms like atomic bombs and other arms to destroy humanity. So this is the reason. I hope you understood well, and if there is anything left or not clarified to you, you can always contact to me, discuss with me in our online class. Thank you very much. Enjoy your day ahead. Bye bye.